passenger seat of a blue Buick minivan driving through downtown Beijing at 3 o'clock on a blistering afternoon. A 53-year-old Beijing local named Lao Wu is driving. He will always be the one driving in this story. He wears pressed, high-waisted blue jeans and a sharp, tan windbreaker. Driving is his job. That is to say, he's a full-time driver. When Lao Wu came back from the fields after the Cultural Revolution, the high schools had been closed. That was the week he learned to drive a Mack truck, and he's been driving ever since. This is my third day in Beijing, and jet lag still pulls me down by my ankles. I lean back in the seat, my mind thick with sleep, and the van slows so I can count 20 waitresses lined up outside the Sichuan Shao Chur dumpling house. The girls wear blue cotton cheapos and do jumping jacks on the sidewalk. Then they salute a head waitress who stands on a small black wooden box. Next, they let out a cheer and march in a circle on the sidewalk. The head waitress calls out more instructions, and the girls yell back. Then they salute their leader one more time and march into the restaurant. People don't march much where I'm from. Maybe the occasional high school band at the annual Bath Memorial Day parade. But marching is very much the way here. Some kind of simulation of the hard-nosed Chinese army way of life. Some kind of leftover from the communist heyday. Except we're still in the communist heyday, aren't we? At the apartment complex where we live, there are more marching guards. They salute me every time I come back to the building. It's kind of creepy. I want to tell them I'm not their senior officer. I'm a 40-year-old American mother of two who can't remember how to pronounce the number 8 in Mandarin. This is a problem. Because 8 is where we live. It's China's luckiest number. And let me say right now that numerology is intrinsic to the whole China operation. There are no fourth floors in China because when spoken, the Chinese character for the number 4 sounds too much like the character for death. So what good fortune that our apartment sits on the lucky 8th floor of a building called Park Avenue. To get through the front door of our lobby, we say ni hao to the teenage guard. He says ni hao back and salutes us. Then we say xie xie, which means thank you, and he says bukechi, you're welcome, and lets us on the elevator. He salutes us one more time to make sure, and we play out this Beckett-like scene of absurdity many times a day, until the humor of it has dried up and flown away on the winds of the Gobi Desert. The school is called Beijing City International School. We chose it from a website. My husband Tony took a tour of it when he came over 2 months ago. The way I see it, the school is a crapshoot. How can you pick teachers from a photo on the internet? They advertised a secular curriculum, Chinese language classes every day, and a focus on being internationally minded. There's supposed to be art and music and swimming, no marching. Small people emerge from the building, little children who don't look like they could be old enough to hold their heads up all day. The children's blue backpacks are bigger than their torso. Here comes Aiden's class, and there's Aiden. He's a thin bean with sandy brown hair and huge almond eyes. He's usually a dreamer who never stops wondering about the state of the universe. Sometimes he lives entirely in his head. But right now he looks tired, and as soon as he sees me, he starts crying. He thrusts his backpack in my hands. Do you have a snack for me? Do you have water? I'm thirsty. I'm hot. His teacher, Carmel, is from Australia, and she reminds me of a high school friend's fun great aunt. She smiles and tells me warmly that Aiden's had a great first day. She calls him darling, but he won't look at her. She says he's just wound up about getting the answer right in Chinese. Then Thorne rounds the corner. He's the blonde in our family. Dark eyes and then the shock of bright hair. Thorne likes to be out in front whenever I give up the pole position. He prefers to know the game plan and the score and the names of the opposing players. Thorne and I have telepathy. We're that much alike. He's our camp director. He doesn't have time to dream because he's busy planning the afternoon's aquatic schedule. He doesn't have time to think, which I've come to think is a good thing. Now he sees me and also shoves his things into my chest. I can't hold all this stuff, and the water bottle falls. Thorne says, you should have come earlier. You shouldn't have come just go so late. But who's late? I want to ask. If anything, I'm early. "You should have come earlier," he repeats, and then tears start down the sides of his round face, and I realize we're in deeper than I thought here. By the time we get to the van, both children have unhinged. Thorne hates his Chinese class and announces he's never going back. "You have no right to make me." Lao Wu smiles uneasily and closes the windows and turns on the AC. He seems as unnerved by the crying as I am, and keeps laughing and making tisk-tisk sounds with his tongue, as if to quiet Thorne. I smile, but my hands are shaking a little. I need to talk these boys down. And what exactly should I say? How much English can Lao Wu understand anyway? Because it's an odd thing to have your children unravel while a friendly Chinese man you just met drives you through Beijing. What will he think of us, these American children and their mother, crying their way home from school? Except I'm not crying. Not yet. Crying doesn't feel like an option. There's too much to get right. Aiden drinks from the water bottle I hand him and begins to give me a list of the reasons the new school is terrible. Really bad, he says. Small bikes, yucky food, and boring. Nothing to do. Really, I say. I try not to panic. Things were good in Maine, and now we've gone and messed with it. I would lie down in this Chinese road for both of these boys, but I can't live in this country with two complainers. I need them to show a little spunk. "You know why I like my old school better?" Aiden says. "No, why?" I say, and slightly clench my jaw. "I like my old school better because it has swings," Aiden said. "And I wish I were Chinese or Korean, because then I would be able to talk to these kids. But your new school has swings." I close my eyes for a second. I should state for the record that I have secret mother superpowers. Yes, I have the ability to detach from my children and climb into my mind at the exact moments my boys might be telling me something they think is vitally important. And I know it's not necessarily safe, it's not necessarily compassionate, but what I do is build a small room in my head, closet-sized, and go inside and close the door. I can still see them. I just can't quite hear them. I go inside this room so I can think clearly. Their games always involve running and jumping and leaping off furniture, and they always want me to be the referee. Before I built this room, I used to yell more. The boys were 1 and 3, or 2 and 4, and always climbing on the small tile ledge around the bathtub. No one was sleeping through the night. My old school had sturdier stuff. Aiden sips his water. Sturdier? I look at him closely and wonder about that room in my mind and how quickly I can get in there. Because the machinery in Aiden's head is testing me. He's 4 years old, and why does his mind spit out words like sturdier? "Yeah," he says, "the climbing stuff was sturdier." Then Thorne chimes in that he doesn't know anyone at this school. Where are my friends? It's a simple question and deserves a good answer. The boy's urge to belong is palpable. I feel it too. A primal need to fit in here somehow, to reach some kind of early understanding with China. By the time we get back to the apartment complex, it's begun to rain. We climb out of the van and say goodbye to Lao Wu. Then one of our Chinese neighbors approaches on the sidewalk and points up to the sky. He's an old man with white hair, and he says in English that each time it rains in Beijing, the temperature drops 5 degrees. And that this is how we get ourselves through autumn in China, rainfall by rainfall, 5-degree increments by 5 degrees.